Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you. Let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. Now, if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also, keep in mind that if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all of your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up on our tour, there are going to be lots of cool aha moments in the MegaCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically get added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes we will be giving away throughout the MegaCast today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. You do need to be in attendance here live at the webinar in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the MegaCast today. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, hey, if you're not sure what those are, no problem. You can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click into the Handouts section, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember here today is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all the questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about winning, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content right away after we wrap, you want to jump right in, make sure that you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and to grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in that Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected after we wrap today. Now, both you and your coworker, your friend, could win a prize, and we actually hold those drawings every month. So be sure you refer somebody awesome before you head out today. It could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab and fill out the application. Then the Actual Tech crew will match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys or test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, how to prevent and recover. The site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. So go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free, super easy. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get rolling.
All right, thanks so much, Jess. That was a great introduction. Thanks for being on with me here on the MegaCast today. And of course, big thank you to the entire audience for joining us. The topic today is streamlining, securing, and protecting cloud, IT, and business operations. You'll hear from experts at Sequence Security, Rubrik, Gigamon, and Palo Alto Networks. We've got a great lineup of some of the most innovative companies in the enterprise IT space today. And now, before we get started, there's just a few other things I want to mention. Of course, my name is David Davis of AxoTech Media, and I'll be serving as the moderator, or I should say one of the moderators, on the event today, along with Jess Steinbach, Scott Becker, and Keith Ward. Jess mentioned we've got some awesome prizes, and we do. Of course, this is a MegaCast, and we've got a mega lineup here of some amazing prizes, starting off with 3 Samsung S23 phones. These are some awesome, the latest and greatest Samsungs, some really cool. Wish I had one of those. We've also got Amazon $300 gift cards every 30 minutes. That is after each of the 4 presentations on the MegaCast today. Of course, as Jess mentioned, you must be live in attendance to qualify, and we've got the prize terms and conditions there in the handouts tab. I will be verbally announcing those prize winners throughout the event. All right, and with that, it's time to kick off the keynote presentation on today's MegaCast.
I'm excited now to welcome my friend Elias Knaser back here on the MegaCast. He is the Chief of Research at EK Media Group, former Gartner analyst. He's a YouTuber, podcaster, author of numerous video training courses out on the web. Elias, it's great to have you on. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, the topic today here is streamlining, securing, protecting the cloud, IT, and business operations. And I mean, you've been in the industry many years. You've got tons of knowledge, on this topic. It's kind of hard to know where do we even begin, but I guess it makes sense to start off with the challenges. What are the top challenges that you see IT organizations out there facing around the cloud?
David, we definitely live in interesting times. There's no lack of challenges these days for organizations, for IT departments. I feel a little bad for them, but hey, that's the career we chose. But for the most part, there's always the security. Security is always going to be the number one challenge that everyone's having. How to deal with security on a variety of aspects, right? Whether it's how do you do zero trust? How do you secure and protect yourself from malware? How do you do data protection and backup? How do you do the cybersecurity? How do you have maybe cyber risk insurance? And we'll talk that maybe in the solutions, some of the aspects there. But security is always going to be a big challenge, especially as we get into AI and some of these more sophisticated tools that can be very helpful, but can also be used by the same folks that want to do harmful things to the environment and potentially to the world. So the security aspect is always going to be number one. These days, there's given the economic times that we're going through, there's a lot of organizations looking at the cost and the cost of everything in general, but there's a focus on cloud costs in particular. Potentially, how do you tune them? Some organizations are trying to optimize. They're moving workloads potentially out of a cloud provider, maybe to a different cloud provider, maybe on premises, maybe to colo, maybe to a managed services. So significant amount of optimization that's happening around cloud costs. And there's challenges there of, well, why do we have these cloud costs? So there's integration, I think, identity and access management, which is, again, that could fall under security to some level. that is also a challenge of how do I manage all of these devices? How do I manage all of these users? How do I integrate with all of these software as a service applications, my traditional applications, that whole process. And to be honest, this has been a challenge even before cloud. We've always had these challenges. I still remember back in 2015, when I was still in the corporate world, we were trying to figure out how to get the HR system to be that authoritative system to kind of initiate all of this and disable all of this. So there's always a challenge there. There's a challenge of monitoring this whole environment. And again, maybe AI ops is something we'll talk about, but there's a variety of challenges. I always tell customers, I feel like the challenges are always the same. They just are applied to different things. We talked about cost at length, and you and I remember this, right? 10 years ago, if I were to say, hey, what is one of the biggest challenges for IT departments? Someone would be like, well, it's the cost. But then it was the cost of hardware and software and operation. Right. Now there's a different aspect to it, but it's still cost. So the challenges are the same. It's just different times are requiring different approaches to them.
No matter where you go, there you are. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So you mentioned security, cost, and management and monitoring. What do you see for the solutions to these kind of challenges?
Yeah, so there's a ton of solutions. There's a ton of really good tools, and I think the tools are going to get better. I think the next 6 months, I think the rest of this year is going to be super interesting because we're going to start to see the real impact of AI and ChatGPT and the likes, obviously, on our tools, on clouds, on some of these things. So that's going to be really, really interesting. But from a security perspective, I'm not a security expert, but some of the advice, that you can give to customers out there, cyber risk insurance is one of the things that I tell every single organization I talk to. Are you looking into cyber risk insurance? Have you even considered cyber risk insurance? For a long time, the underwriting process was very exhaustive. Today, there are ways to mitigate that. I think that would be one area that would be super interesting for organizations that haven't looked at, the potential for cyber risk insurance. The other is looking at, some of the tools that are available out there on how do I do security for my organization, again, whether it's data protection, whether it's the zero trust of the world, all of these things, CASB, all of the things that, again, we've been using. There are really good solutions out there that can help from a security perspective, and I think they're about to get a lot better with the inclusion or introduction of more AI capabilities into them.
Absolutely. And that's a great tie into the next question. But before I ask that, one of the things I'm excited about is kind of the consolidation of tools by getting smarter and smarter tools. Because I saw a survey that the average enterprise has like 43 security tools. I don't even understand how is that possible. Yeah. But think about all the money that could be saved by going from 43 to 23 security tools by getting smarter tools. And that's what we're talking about a lot here on the MegaCast today, of course, is a lot of different, tools to help solve these challenges. But, there's always somebody out there in the audience raising their hand. What about AI? Elias, what about AI? What's your take on AI?
So, and it's funny you bring this up. And again, this goes back to what we were just talking about. So again, 10, 15 years ago, one of the challenges we had was tool sprawl, right? Mm-hmm. I had 3 different monitoring solutions. We had SolarWinds, and we had, what was the name of that solution? I think it was What's Up or something like that. We had that. And there was all of these monitoring solutions. We had at least 2 backup solutions. The security solutions were always all over the place. And we've always talked about, let's consolidate. Virtualization came along that introduced a new generation of new sprawl in terms of tools. Mm-hmm. Now the cloud came along and that's doing the same thing. I do feel like, the introduction of AI is going to, maybe it won't help reduce the number of tools. And that's always something that organizations are going to go after. But I think for the first time, we might have an opportunity where AI can help us streamline and optimize how we use these tools. Maybe integrating them together easier would be something that AI can help with. I really feel like AI is going to contribute a lot in terms of integration, in terms of identifying maybe which tool is going to monitor something more efficiently or optimize something more efficiently. That's where I feel like AI is going to come into play. It's going to take automation from just programmability, from just, hey, I'm going to automate something, to intelligent-based automation. So for example, for the longest time, the networking folks of the world, the Ciscos, the Junipers of the world, et cetera, they always had this intent-based networking approach to things, right? Mm-hmm. We've always talked about, applications that are being aware of the infrastructure and being able to fine-tune themselves to request resources whenever they need to. I need more memory, give me more memory. I need more CPU, give me more CPU. But that was always like, it was cool to talk about, but it didn't really work. I feel like in the next 6 months, we're really going to get an introduction to what intelligence, intent-based or others can really do in an environment. I should be able to say, hey, I want you to integrate Jump Cloud with my Office 365 implementation. Or I want you to take Rubrik and, deploy an implementation to do backup of my environment. Or take Veritas. Veritas is doing some amazing things, for example, in terms of cybersecurity and intelligence. I want you to take that and figure out how to integrate it in my environment. So the integration aspect, I think, is going to get a pretty big boost in terms of AI. And I think that's going to be exciting. That will accelerate, it will optimize, it will streamline, which is all of the things that we're talking about today. I think AI is going to help. I'm sure it will introduce new sets of challenges. I have no doubts, but I think it's going to help us streamline and optimize a lot of the things that we've wrestled with in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you're talking, I'm picturing like Hal from A Space Odyssey and just telling him, Hal, integrate the cloud with the on-premises environment, protect it and secure it all. And he's like,
so you're right? I mean, we joke around about, hey, we're building Skynet. I think we've already built Skynet. I think Hal is here. Right now, it might not get to that point where maybe they won't deploy it, but I think we're going to very quickly get to the point where Hal is going to suggest, based on what you told me, here's a suggested architecture and I can do it for you. Now, You might look at that and say, I don't like what you did here, tweak it there, and then arrive at something that you do want how to deploy, or at least you'll get a blueprint of what you need to do to implement it. But I think the speed of being able to do that, the efficiency, I think that's where it's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just have to make sure Hal doesn't go crazy and take control of everything.
I hope not.
All right. Well, this has been so much fun. I always enjoy chatting. We could go on for another hour here, but last question I want to ask you before we wrap up is, tell us about the new content you've been creating. What new training courses have you released, and where can we find more information about Elias Knaser?
Yeah. So you can find information about me on my website, eliasknaser.com. On my YouTube channel, I do one question, one answer in less than 20 minutes. youtube.com/eknaser. As far as content is concerned, I published a course on Pluralsight on the key differences between AWS, Azure, and Google. I think it's a super cool course. I published another course on, it's called the Cloud Strategy Masterclass. That's on Udemy. That will take you through the development of a cloud strategy from A to Z. I've got templates in there. I've got toolkits in there. It's a great course. Definitely check it out. And I'm working on more courses. There's going to be a course on multi-cloud strategy, maybe on AWS fundamentals. This is going to be a packed year for me as far as content creation is concerned.
Awesome. Exciting stuff. Well, I'm going to go check out your courses. I hope everyone else does as well. I look forward to more and look forward to chatting with you again in the future. Thanks so much, Elias.
Take care. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was a lot of fun. It's now time for our first poll question of a number on the MegaCast today. The question on the screen is, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? Of course, today we're specifically talking about solutions for streamlining, securing, and protecting cloud IT and business operations. So you're on this event today, you're learning about some innovative new enterprise IT technology. What's your time frame for taking some sort of action on that? I'll leave this poll question up here for a few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say, maybe. Let everyone answer this poll. If you haven't done this before, you answer right there in the slides window. Just select the option that corresponds to you and your company and click submit. All right. Thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate that. It's now time to move on and kick off the MegaCast with our first expert presenter. I'm excited to welcome Tony Bailey, who is the Director of Product Marketing at Sequence Security. Tony, it's great to have Sequence back on the event. I'll hand it off to you. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, David, very much for the introduction. Appreciate that. I'd like to talk today a little bit around Sequence Unified API Protection and how we help with your API security and with your bot management as well. We'll give you a quick overview of our view of the space and the problems in that space, and then our unique approach to addressing that. For those people that are maybe fairly new to APIs, you probably recognize that in today's, let's call it digital economy, APIs have been working behind the scenes to drive lots of innovation and commerce, from things like the applications that are running on your mobile device. Every time those mobile apps communicate with a company, APIs are working behind the scenes as the glue to make that communication happen. In things like telecom companies, more than $160 billion in revenue happens because of APIs. One of the challenges, though, with APIs is it's almost like it's a double-edged sword. So APIs can be easily found. Oftentimes they're public URLs that expose those APIs. And sometimes when developers don't have really strict or strong adherence to the best practices when it comes to security, can sort of make those APIs exploitable and vulnerable. Therein is one of the problems, is they become a top attack vector, resulting in theft, fraud, and business disruption. And we've seen even that 80% of automated attacks are targeting APIs. So certainly there's a double-edged sword to this sizzling API economy, if you will. Now, this ever-growing risk from APIs, one of the challenges is that security teams, they kind of lack visibility into all of the APIs that are being leveraged by mobile apps, by tablets and desktop devices. There's traditional pieces of equipment that's inside the network, such as web application firewalls, traditional firewalls, API gateways, content delivery networks. All of those are sort of involved in the API economy, but they're really traditional approaches to trying to protect an organization. So, for example, web application firewalls are using very much signature-based approaches to known attacks. And so if they see a known attack, they're able to block it. One of the problems with APIs and attackers is if they're not sophisticated, attackers sure are relentless, and they're ever retooling to try and get at these APIs. One of the things that we've seen is that many APIs, more than 100 times, are actually undiscovered APIs, and they're unknown, working in the shadows. And what we mean by that is, let's say, for example, a developer is leveraging a public API. The rest of the organization may not know about the use of that API. And even known APIs can be poorly protected for a number of reasons, whether it's they're miscoded or they're misconfigured, or there's new exploits that have appeared that take advantage of them. So these traditional approaches often fail to find those APIs and then to protect the organization from API attacks. And also the other thing to take into account is these approaches here often fail to scale effectively. So for example, if you've got let's go back to the web application firewall that may have a signature-based approach. Look, there's only so many signatures that can be known. And when there's billions of transactions taking place involving APIs, often scalability can be a problem. One of the things that we've seen in terms of a rising trend of API risk is the notion of broken authentication resulting in excessive data exposure, along with this idea of shadow APIs out there lurking. And so attackers, what they can do is they can perform reconnaissance on a website, and they can discover APIs that are associated with login activity. And so they can then collect information by looking at those APIs and find information that's returned back to them. Also, these attackers are constantly on the hunt for shadow APIs. They'll then try and validate accounts via means such as credential stuffing, where they're just sending thousands of requests using different kinds of credentials in the hope that eventually something will log on successfully. And it does happen. Or they may be able to parse and store excessive response data from all of this activity. So this rising trend of sensitive data exposure, shadow APIs, and credential stuffing together is definitely resulting in this rising trend of API risk. So what can security teams do? So our view of the world, sequence security, is to look at the continuous API protection lifecycle. And that starts, first and foremost, is knowing all the APIs that you have and your organization is using. So a discovery process. And that's not just the private APIs that may be inside your organization, or even the partner APIs that you're using for, let's say, B2B commerce. There's also the public-facing APIs that are out there lurking in the shadows that you may not know about. And then being able to inventory all of those APIs so that you can then assess those APIs for things like vulnerabilities and potential exposure, certainly as part of a compliance project to make sure that your teams are adhering to security best practices and make sure that there's no compliance issues for things like government regulations such as GDPR in Europe, or in the healthcare industry, HIPAA, or there's things like industry requirements such as Visa, MasterCard requiring PCI DSS requirements so you can do business at point of sale systems. So that's great, all well and good. You've found all the APIs, you've assessed them, you've fixed the ones that are broken to make sure you're in compliance. But that's not the complete story in their life cycle. What about those perfectly coded APIs that are subject to abuse using things like credential stuffing? You have to have a way to detect those attacks as soon as they happen, and then protect and prevent those attacks and block them in line natively in real time. Why do I say that? It's because speed is of the essence here. If you imagine, there's examples of things like, electronics items going on sale on a website, and these attacks will try and leverage by being the first, 500 people to get those items and then resell them. So it's those scales of attacks where there's thousands and thousands of requests taking place, and you need to be able to detect and then block them. And then also there's the testing piece, which as APIs come and go. They're changing all the time, either new versions or new APIs. There's a notion of being able to test those APIs before they go live. So that's sort of the sequence view of the world. You have to have coverage for the entire API lifecycle. And then in terms of specific solutions that we offer to cover those areas, we have our API Spider solution for discovery of that external facing attack surface to find all those hosted APIs. And then we have a module called API Sentinel that does the testing of the inventory and the compliance. And last but not least, by any means, is API Spartan to do that detection and protection against those automated attacks. And if we kind of look at this hypothetical view of the world, an API-related data breach. So based on some public information that we've come across. So in this situation, there was a shadow API, an API server. This API happened to be used for testing. It was unknowingly exposed to the internet. So there's a problem, first and foremost. Attackers are then basically prepending the API to the URL to find more shadow APIs. And then the third part was looking for basically broken user authentication, where the attackers were finding APIs that, oh, interesting, it's missing authentication. Or it's a weak authentication where the password is very weak and easily guessed, resulting in excessive data exposure. And so the API ecosystem was actually giving out more information than it really should be. And then the other one was the BOLA, or the broken object level authorization, where attackers were able to basically exploit object IDs, and the lack of authorization meant that they would be able to enumerate an attack by using bots for thousands and thousands of attempts at weakness. The result is that customer data was exposed, the last thing any organization needs. The good news is that if you look at the secret security approach and those three modules that I mentioned, you would have gotten coverage there. API Spider would have found that exposed API. API Sentinel would have helped remediate the vulnerabilities. And then API Spartan would have kicked into high gear and said, "Oh, there's an attack taking place. Let's go ahead and block that." So that's sort of the good news of our approach. This is a fairly detailed slide, but what we're trying to illustrate here on the left-hand side is that when it comes to that notion of unified API protection, we've got those three areas covered. So whether it's attack surface management, public-facing API discovery, attack surface monitoring, the second part around API testing and security, being able to do a runtime API inventory and checking against different specifications such as open API specs, being able to address and mitigate what's referred to as the OWASP API Security Top 10. So it's a list of vulnerabilities that the OWASP organization is sort of listing, making sure that you address those. And then the third part is the bot management piece, which is detecting and protecting from attacks taking place right now. The nice thing for our approach is that we can do that completely agentless with no sort of special SDK or JavaScript involved to do that. And so when you get things like business logic abuse, where people may be using things like stolen credentials, you can actually kick into high gear and block those with a key benefit of fraud prevention. And then on the right-hand side, Sequence also had managed services. So we recognize that oftentimes organizations are super busy, resources are stretched. So you can optionally bring in these managed services and our security experts to help you on the different areas of API protection, whether it's helping you with rule sets to protect against the OWASP, whether it's a managed distributed denial of service protection against attacks. The second one there is a managed service for API discovery and inventory and remediation recommendations. And then the last one there is the real-time threat monitoring. So that's continuous protection as a service. And interestingly, what I didn't mention is that when it comes to the detection and protection piece, we have a vast database of threat intelligence that we draw on. And that helps us to quickly identify attacks, even when attackers are retooling and trying to use different techniques to get at your organization through your APIs. So that's an important piece to call out. In terms of the benefits, as I start to conclude here, is we're going to help you maximize the business value when it comes to using APIs. At the end of the day, the last thing you want is a revenue hit because somebody's stealing information from you. And also at the same time, you've got your users with their mobile applications. And the last thing you want is for a user to have a bad experience with that mobile application because you're under attack. And then the middle one there is really helping you eliminate any of those shadow APIs that might be lurking so that you can ensure compliance best practices within your organization. And then another key piece is cost effectively deploy and scale. So whether your environment is leveraging SaaS, cloud, data center, or some kind of hybrid of that, our deployment options will match your environment with 100% data privacy available. And we do that. There's no intrusive tooling, SDK or JavaScript involved in our approach. And if you want to look at kind of real world examples across our customer base, so there's customers in the retail space where they were undergoing bot attacks, and they sort of view their world as, look, just by blocking these attacks, we're saving over $1 million, during that time frame. And I think that was just over a quarter. So you can multiply that by 4 for annual with a very fast payback because they're immediately blocking these attacks. And then financial services organization, they were trying to figure out how to detect fraud. And it was taking them 3 hours to figure out, well, this loan application doesn't look quite right. And by leveraging Sequence, they were able to detect fraud in a matter of 30 seconds just by using our various approach, our threat intelligence to do that. And really, at the end of the day, they went from a completely reactive posture right through to proactive with a much faster response rate. And then the third one there, this example here, which says 8,000 APIs identified. So the story is they thought they had X number of APIs. When they went out and did discovery, they found 8,000 more that didn't even know about. So you can imagine if APIs are the number one attack vector and you're finding APIs you didn't know about, that's really, really important. So you can mitigate those APIs. And at the end of the day, again, telecom, millions of customers. And so they had about 1 billion API transactions a day were being protected. And interesting, their onboarding time, again, because there's no instrumentation involved, was less than 20 minutes for their onboarding time. So certainly, pretty spectacular returns there. And what we're showing here really is sort of the scale of our success with these global brands that we work with across telecom, luxury retail, and media entertainment services. So certainly we're seeing quite a bit of success on our approach with these number of API calls secured, the numbers of user accounts across all of those customers that are being protected. And if you think about it, if you look at all these logos here and their market value is in the trillions of dollars. And then last but not least is that threat intelligence database records that I mentioned. We've got hundreds of millions of records that we've collected and we're able to leverage to quickly identify attacks and block those attacks. And just on this last slide here, the good news is that you can really get started just in a matter of minutes by filling out a form. Just takes a few minutes. What we'll do is when you go to this URL, which is sequence.ai/assessment, just fill that form out, and then we'll reach out to you with information around APIs that we can crawl and discover. So you may find together with us those shadow APIs you didn't know about, and then also look into the notion of API Sentinel, of then inventory and assessing those APIs. So again, sequence.ai/assessment. Definitely pay attention to that. I think it'd be worth your while just to check it out. And Jess, that was my my last slide.
Perfect. Well, Tony, thank you for that awesome presentation. I love this as a place to start as well. You know, we talk about this all the time. You can't protect what you don't know. You can't deal with problems you can't see. And so that's a great place to start, is with that assessment, and then kind of moving forward. And we have a ton of great questions coming in, Tony. So I know the audience really enjoyed your presentation as much as I did. I want to make sure that we can get to as many of those as we can. So are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do it. Okay. This is an interesting one. I'm glad someone asked this. If we found and fixed all vulnerable APIs, how well are we protected from API attacks?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So even if you're able to find all of your APIs and you put them into an inventory, you assess them, make sure they're in compliance with all the necessary rules. Here's the challenge, that even seemingly legitimate transactions may look like perfectly normal traffic. The problem is they might be using stolen credentials, and when it's a automated attack leveraging bots, thousands upon thousands of requests are hitting your site right now in an attempt to steal data, or even worse, commit fraud. And as I said right at the very beginning, you know, if attackers, if they're not sophisticated, they don't give up. They're relentless. And so API abuse may be hard to block. And so traditional approaches such as a web application firewall is going to leverage signatures. It's going to look at known attacks and block them. Or API gateways even, you know, they're not, I mean, they're sort of, you know, more around API authentication. So this notion of having the ability to have a threat intelligence database that even accommodates attackers when they retool, it can detect those attacks and go, this is not right. There's thousands of hits to our websites. They're all, for example, coming from, you know, this group of IP addresses, or they're coming from this location of the world. Something's not quite right. Let's go ahead and block it, and you know, save some money for that business ultimately.
All right. Well, and that's a big part of why a lot of us are here, is that safety, protection, and cost savings. We're running pretty short on time, but I'm going to sneak in one more question here, because this is an interesting one, and I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from our community, right? So we have a question here. What are the best practices for tackling API protection, and where do I start on that?
Yeah, that's a great one. So that was when I talked in the presentation, that sort of that infinity diagram that I was showing. So definitely, first and foremost, you have to understand your external attack surface, and that means knowing all of the APIs, whether they're private, public, or partner APIs, which ones can be accessed, which ones are in those public hosted environments. Are there any accidental exposures, such as databases accessible from the outside? And then cataloging and inventory those APIs. Check to make sure they're coded correctly. If not, fix them. So that's super important. And then have that testing pieces in place, just as part of your API protection lifecycle. But again, don't forget that's only part of the story. Your APIs, even the ones that are perfectly beautifully coded in every single way, they still could be subject to abuse. And that's why it's important to look at the approach of having something that detects and protects for the entire life cycle, and native mitigation, so inline mitigation, so you can respond as fast as possible and see the same traffic as the detection does, so you can fix things very, very quickly.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we all know how important that speed is in both protection, recovery, security, and hey, just life in general these days, right? So, Tony, I wish we could keep going. There's so many questions left, and this has been such an interesting conversation. I think we're going to have to leave it there. Before you leave us, the assessment that we've got up on the screen right now, is that the best way to get started?
It is, yeah. So again, I'll say the URL. It's sequence.ai/assessment. Definitely the best way to get started, and think you'll be for those people that make the effort to fill out the form and chat with us and do an assessment in their environment, will be very, very interested to see what they find.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tony. It's been so much fun kind of digging into sequence security a little bit more with you today. I know that I learned a ton. I know the audience did as well. I do want to remind everyone that if you asked a question we didn't get to in the live Q&A just now, we will make sure that all these questions get to sequence security, so you will get a response back. But Tony, I want to once again thank you for being here with us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jess. And of course, thank you to Tony from Sequence Security for presenting on the MegaCast today. I've just brought up a poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Sequence Security solution? We do want to get your feedback on this. Would you like some technical details, a data sheet, white paper, case studies? Perhaps you'd like pricing. Perhaps you'd like your own personal demo of how this would work, or you want to try it out, for yourself. We do want to get your feedback on the next steps that you would like to take. And once you complete the poll there, check out the handouts tab, because right there at the top, there is a link to Sequence Security, and specifically, it will take you to that assessment that Tony was talking about. You can simply fill out, a few basic questions about you and your company, and then get a free assessment on how Sequence Security could help you to protect your APIs before you're hit. So don't wait. Before it's too late, take some action now to protect your APIs and improve your security. And I will leave up the poll question there for everyone to respond to while I announce our first set of prize winners. So we've got a gift card, Amazon $300 gift card. This is going to Gris Arvalo from Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Gris Arvalo from Pennsylvania. And let's see, do we have another prize right now? Not yet, nope. On the next one, we will be announcing our, oh wait, let's go ahead and do it. Why not? Sure. Let's announce our first grand prize. This is for one of those new Samsung S23 phones. This one's going to Danielle Fours from Pennsylvania. Daniel Fours from Pennsylvania. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate your feedback, but it is time to get the MegaCast rolling once again here, and I'm excited now to bring in our next presenter. Welcome to Srijana, who is a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik. Srijana, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on how your data can help you prepare against ransomware and other cyber threats. My name is Srijana, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik, and I'm excited to show you what I have in store today, so let's get started. We're living in a world today where data is at the heart of everything we do, and organizations are increasingly adopting cloud services and SaaS applications, which is great. But this also has made it even more challenging to manage and secure data. In fact, according to a 2022 Sophos survey, 66% of organizations were hit with ransomware in the last year, and this highlights the severity of the issue. And it doesn't really help that cyber criminals are becoming more and more advanced in their methods, and this makes it really important for organizations to protect their data. And we have seen that organizations have invested so much in infrastructure security tools, but the fact is that attackers are still able to penetrate into the layers of defenses and access their data. And if cyber criminals are getting through to the data, they can take the data down, and with that, they can take down the entire business. And many organizations are still relying on legacy backup as their last resort cybersecurity option. And these systems often lack the critical security features, and they're not designed to protect against modern cyber threats. And here are a few reasons why legacy backup cannot be trusted for cyber defense. Number one, legacy backups are vulnerable to cyber attacks. And this is because organizations that use legacy backup likely have open storage protocols, which can expose their data to unauthorized access and manipulation by hackers. And this is particularly a problem when it's coupled with Windows operating systems and multi-factor authentication that's not been deployed or enforced. And without proper authentication and access controls, cyber attackers can exploit vulnerabilities in these systems and gain unauthorized access to sensitive data and ultimately compromise an organization's security posture. Number two, legacy backups do not provide any insights or visibility into what data is at risk and what has been affected during a cyber attack. And this makes organizations unable to respond as quickly as they need to. And the task of determining what data has been lost or compromised can be a very manual and time-consuming process, and it can take weeks or even months to complete, extending costly downtime. Number three, legacy backups were designed to restore individual files, virtual machines, databases from a known point in time. They already know what to recover. And it's mostly associated with a disaster, right? Like earthquakes or fire hazards. But with cyber recovery, it's very different. It can be incredibly challenging to determine what to restore when the attack occurred. We don't know how far the bad actor went and the extent of the damage they caused. And this piecing together of information is very time consuming, and it can significantly delay the recovery process. Number four, legacy backups do not offer protection against the reinfection of malware. In a cyber recovery scenario, restoring backups that contain malware already to a clean environment can trigger the attack all over again and potentially cause even more damage and data loss. And the aftermath of such an attack can be very devastating for organizations and cause them to lose more money and customer trust for years to come. And so, as you can see, legacy backup tools and processes are not well suited or even designed for IT and security teams to prepare for ransomware and to quickly recover when they're attacked. When a cyber attack occurs, organizations need to be able to answer crucial questions like, was the backup itself compromised? Can we quickly recover the malware, find the malware, and can we quickly find the last clean snapshot to recover from? And can we quickly recover just what we need, not all of the data? If these questions cannot be answered, then the time to recover is huge. And in most cases, it takes several months, and the costs of recovery are also very huge. So where do we go from here? We at Rubrik believe that analytics and automation are crucial to cover good recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives. And tackling cyber attacks is not something that can be handled manually. Technology actually plays a big role. And analytics can actually do the heavy lifting for us. And things like identifying the last known clean snapshot, preventing malware from reinfecting systems, scanning for indicators of compromise, and pinpointing where we need to go. All of this is very crucial during cyber recovery. And so automation is also very important in quickly restoring infected systems and to help us restore just what we need to restore. This is very essential in reducing the downtime and getting back to business as usual. So, given the challenges of the current cyber landscape and traditional backup systems, we need a new approach to securing data. One that provides security at the point of data to keep data safe and recover it faster. And this is why data security is the answer. It helps IT and security teams defend data from cyber attacks, so data remains safe and available at all times. And data security combined with infrastructure security is the way to fully secure data and defend it against cyber attacks. Now let's look at these three pillars of data security. The first is data resilience. Imagine having the power to cyberproof your backup data. This includes securing all your data from insider threats and ransomware attacks. It's like having an impenetrable shield around your valuable data, keeping it safe no matter what. And the second one is data observability. What if you could continuously monitor and investigate data risks with advanced analytics and automation? And that means being able to detect ransomware, sensitive data exposure, indicators of compromise, meaning you will be one step ahead of any potential threats, and you'll be able to recover and respond quickly to any cyber incident. And last but not the least, data remediation. What if you could recover just the data you need quickly and efficiently while avoiding malware to reinfect your data? This means minimizing your downtime, minimizing data loss, and ensuring a very swift recovery in case of an attack. So what if I told you we had a solution that does all of this and more? So I'm introducing Rubrik Security Cloud today, and Rubrik Security Cloud is a data security platform built upon a unique backup architecture specifically designed for cyber recovery. It is built with zero trust principles by design, and it empowers you to keep your data safe and continuously monitor risks with analytics and automation and recover just what you need with speed and confidence. Now let's look at how Rubrik supports the first pillar of data security, which is data resilience. Using Rubrik, you can be confident that your critical data is safe from deletion, compromise, and encryption. How is that possible? It's possible through air-gapped, immutable, access-controlled backups, and these technologies enable you to withstand cyber attacks, malicious insiders, and any other operational disruptions. Data is always stored in an immutable format, and it cannot be read, modified, or deleted. And your backed up data is always logically air-gapped, so it's offline and cannot be accessed through standard network protocols. And all the system interfaces are secure. They're role-based, least privileged, and protected by multi-factor authentication. And lastly, data is always encrypted in flight and at rest, and it is stored in a purpose-built append-only file system. Now let's look at the second pillar. So Rubrik also helps organizations fight against ransomware, and it does that by capturing a long history of data and its metadata as well. So it scans hundreds of snapshots and generates signals that are analyzed by machine learning, and it uses AI and ML to find the changes to the data. In short, it helps you determine the scope of ransomware attacks and how far the bad actor went. Next, it analyzes data anomalies, and this helps you reduce your sensitive data exposure and manage data exfiltration risk by discovering what types of sensitive data you have within your backups, where it lives, who has access to it, all of that. And finally, Rubrik also provides threat monitoring and threat hunting services, and this helps you prevent malware reinfection. And it does this by analyzing your history of data for indicators of compromise. And once it analyzes your data, it identifies the initial point and scope of attack, time of infection, and this helps you to actually recover from a clean copy from before the attack occurred. Super helpful stuff. And the last pillar is data remediation. And when it comes to data remediation, Rubrik makes it easier for organizations to recover their data quickly, and it helps reduce downtime and restore business operations quickly. And how does it do this? Like I said, it looks for indicators of compromise and backup data and analyzes your snapshots to identify clean, uninfected snapshots for recovery. And it also simplifies and automates the whole recovery orchestration process for you. And it does that by providing failover and failback testing for disaster recovery. And it helps you create and execute recovery plans and recover to the most recent clean state of backup. And it also helps you simulate your cyber recovery workflows, meaning you can test and validate your recoveries in advance, so you're prepared for the worst case scenario. So this way you can rest assured that your data is safe and ready to recover quickly in the event of a cyber attack. So feel free to check out our industry analyst reports. We are proud to be recognized as a leader across several dimensions and capabilities, and it's a privilege for us to work with organizations like yours. And so with that, we come to the end of the presentation, and thank you so much for taking the time to attend this webinar. We would love for you to check out our website for more information on the capabilities we discussed today. Thanks again. I'd like to pass it back.
Thanks, Sirjan. Great presentation. We do have some questions coming in for you. If you have a question for Nutanix, now is the time to get it in. I'll just start off with this first question, and that is, they're asking, we're struggling to become a more resilient organization, but don't know where to start. Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, so at the most basic level, it's really about increasing your preparedness from data breaches. And the best way to do this is through zero trust principles. And this includes first identifying which assets are business critical. And this includes applications, databases, infrastructure assets. And the next step is to assess them for risk exposure. And this can be accomplished faster with automated discovery tools combined with frequent reviews with your stakeholders. And that way you can determine what are the SLA policies that you need to assign for each of these? How can you address different levels of criticality and risk? And then also making sure that your backups are safe and secure, meaning they should be immutable, which means they cannot be modified or encrypted. Making sure that your backups are air-gapped, meaning they're cut off from any network and protected from unauthorized access. I think those are table stakes for any organization. And another important aspect of preparedness is to make sure that your data protection status is visible for all workloads. And this means adopting solutions that can give you analytics on your data. And finally, also making sure that your cyber recovery playbooks and processes have been defined so that when an attack actually happens, you are prepared and you know the process to follow. And this makes a huge difference in making cyber recoveries quicker and more effective.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question. What's the biggest mistake you've seen companies make in trying to prevent ransomware attacks, and how can they prevent it?
Yeah, so I think I covered this in the presentation as well. And I think the biggest mistake that organizations are still making is using traditional backup and recovery solutions that are outdated and are not designed to protect against sophisticated attacks like ransomware. So the traditional backup solutions were mostly designed for disaster recovery scenarios, which is very different from a cyber attack scenario. And attackers are increasingly targeting backup data these days, meaning they can encrypt all of that backup data, making it impossible to recover data without paying the ransom. Another common mistake is also failing to test backup and recovery processes regularly. This is also another drawback of traditional backup systems, where they don't provide organizations with the capability to simulate and test their recovery process. And so organizations are having to rely on luck or chance to restore their systems. And that leads to data loss and downtime, reputational damage, etc. And to overcome this, organizations should consider implementing modern data security solutions that specifically integrate ransomware detection and recovery capabilities, and solutions that use machine learning algorithms to detect ransomware activity and help you spread the attack, prevent the spread of the attack, sorry. And these solutions should also help you easily perform recovery testing and validation so that you're prepared to recover with confidence in the event of a cyber attack.
Great, thank you. Next question. How do you think that ransomware prevention and mitigation is going to evolve over the next couple of years?
Great question. So one of the biggest trends that we're seeing, and I think this is definitely going to be something that's going to evolve, we're going to see organizations adopt this more and more in the next few years, is the adoption of zero trust. Zero trust has emerged as a critical security strategy that helps you tackle massive problems around data protection, asset protection, and it helps you understand what you're protecting, and it gives you a roadmap to get you there. And so over the next couple of years, we can expect to see more organizations adopt zero trust to minimize the attack surface and prevent unauthorized access to critical data. And the other thing is that until now, there's been a huge gap between IT and security teams where there was not much of an interaction between them, and they had their own separate point solutions to approach the problem. But that model isn't really working anymore. Organizations are looking towards implementing security into all of their applications and architectures, and IT teams are getting more and more involved in incident response. So we can expect to see increased collaboration and sharing of threat intelligence between those two teams to understand what exactly is happening from an insider perspective and from an external threat actor perspective as well. And the last thing that I will say is, as ransomware attacks continue to evolve and become more advanced, organizations will need solutions that are specifically designed to detect and recover from ransomware attacks. And this is because of two reasons. One is that the perimeter security solutions do not work anymore. And legacy backup solutions are outdated. They're not designed to protect against cyber attacks. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to adopt solutions that leverage machine learning and AI. And I think that's going to be a big trend that we're going to see over the next few years, which is more and more solutions that give us proper visibility into data risk and help us prevent the spread of the attack.
Great. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions here in the live session. If you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A box there in your audience console, and we'll do our best to get back to you electronically. I want to give a big thanks to Rubrik for supporting the event today. Check out the handouts tab for additional information. And with that, we're going to go to a poll.
All right, the poll on the screen says, what additional information would you like about the Rubrik solution? We want to get your feedback on this. Of course, the options are right there on the screen: pricing, personal demo, maybe you want to try Rubrik for yourself, a customer case study, learn about other customers who have used Rubrik with success. So I'll leave that up while I announce the winner of our next Amazon $300 gift card. This is going to Ramon Palmer from Connecticut. Congratulations, Ramon Palmer from Connecticut. And stay tuned because we've got still 2 more grand prizes. That's 2 more Samsung S23 phones and 2 more Amazon $300 gift cards to give away on the event today. So, of course, stay tuned for those prize drawings. If you have already answered the poll question, I encourage you to check out the handouts tab right there, link number 2. That will take you to Rubrik.com. You can learn more about the Rubrik and Zscaler, a new double extortion ransomware solution. And make sure you check out the Get Started link right there in the top right-hand side of the Rubrik website for additional information. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate your feedback, but it's time now to move on to our next presentation on the MegaCast today. I'm excited now to bring in Mahavir Dhamachan, Director for Cloud Product Management at Gigamon. Mahavir, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You might be joining this webinar from different part of the world. My name is Mahavir Dharmchand. I'm Director for Product Management, focusing on the cloud visibility. So Gigamon Hybrid Cloud Network Visibility Solution, what it is. Today, in the world of security scareness, security issues that are looming everywhere, the visibility becomes an extremely important to your network layer. What is actually flowing in your network? What type of applications are flowing? What type of metadata is flowing? What type of certificates are being used? What the users are moving around your network? Either it is in hybrid cloud or single cloud, or it could be in your data center. So let's call it as an hybrid cloud. Today, customers are using more than one cloud. So having a complete end-to-end visibility to your network and to make sure that your security angle has been taken care is an important aspect to make sure that your users are protected, your applications are protected, your organization is protected, your brand has been protected. Gigamon is exactly solving those challenges of providing an end-to-end network visibility, improving the security posture while benefiting the application performance to make sure that your applications are performing to deliver the best of the service to your customers. Now, let's go into the details of exactly we do it. The quick agenda, we'll talk about customer pain points and what are the challenges in the cloud, either it is single cloud or hybrid cloud. Some of the value benefits versus data packets are versus melt. What is melt? It is metrics, logs and traces, right? And what's the difference between the information that customers would get when they actually capture network traffic, network packets from the network area, and while they're already getting the melt from the telemetry, right? And the cloud and hybrid environment security and performance challenges, how exactly it's been done today. And we will look at how Gigamon Cloud Suite provides that improved network visibility. And we also support both virtual machines. It could be running in your hybrid cloud in your data center. And we also provide visibility to your Kubernetes container. And we have something called Universal Container Tab to address north, south, and east, west traffic to your container and Kubernetes space, right? How cool it is, right? And of course, we extend the visibility to NSXT visibility layer. Not only visibility layer is what is important is applying intelligence to your applications to make sure you're capturing the right set of data and filtering out unwanted applications, unwanted data, so that you can forward those metadata and application information to your third-party applications. It could be NDR SIMs, right? So in that way, you're managing your intelligence, you're getting your intelligence and forwarding the right set of data to your third-party applications for faster and improved performance and faster and improved what we call it as identification of security issues or port spoofing and many of the issues that might be happening in the network layer or hybrid cloud layer, right? So that's exactly what we have in application intelligence and application performance in intelligence that we provide. And then we look at some of the customer use cases, who are some of the customers are using Gigamon solutions, how they're benefiting, and finally, why Gigamon, right? And what is our value to you and to all of our customers. So if you look at this diagram, the virtual network visibility gaps is really, really cumbersome, right? So customers are running their workloads either on VM or on nodes, but consistent visibility between VM to VM, between node to node is a real challenge, right? More importantly, because of the lack of visibility, the blind spots are creating, the security issues are increasing due to not having clear visibility. That means intruders are getting everywhere. They are finding sweet spots and moving around in the network without themselves getting exposed. Now, how do we expose them? It is very much needed to expose them so that the security application security companies can remediate those in a quick fashion, right? Because of lack of visibility into the network layer, customers are using multiple tools, which is increasing their cost, right? And inflexibility. Some of the tools today that are available in the market either provide visibility to either to VMs or to one single cloud or to the clusters or Kubernetes clusters, but they don't provide flexibility across all of them and across multiple clouds and hybrid clouds, right? There are a lot of regulatory changes. It could be GDPR and etc. So making sure that the data provided visibility, has maintaining the regulatory challenges, and of course, application and and network improvements and performance has been addressed, right? It could be private cloud or a public cloud. The visibility is must required either for it is north, south, or east, west traffic areas. And this is where exactly we come into the space of how we're going to solve these challenges. Further, I explained here about how the network visibility challenges are really been causing a real problem statement. All the areas on the left, it could be application servers to legacy systems. Underneath, there are multiple layers of applications are being run either in the OpenStack area, or AWS, or Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, or on the containers, or on Nutanix or VMware, right? And this is where exactly we solve the problem of providing a single pane of glass visibility into all of your network visibility layer, either it is in the public cloud, private cloud, or remote sites. Improving the performance, network performance, application performance, diagnostic and troubleshooting, faster troubleshooting, and improving the security posture by eliminating the blind spots, detecting and preventing the threats before they take action, before they cause any issues, and of course, protecting and providing sensitive data, information, ensuring the compliance are managed, right? And of course, maximizing the tools invested. You might be using Splunk, or you might be using third-party, NDR, the SIM, or maybe other type of tools, providing them the relevant traffic and providing the relevant data is an extremely important for them to take relevant action and right action, right? And by doing that, we would improve those tools and investments on those tools by you, right? And of course, by handling these security postures and application performance issues with a clear end-to-end visibility, we would accelerate your business through a very focused approach of prioritizing your efforts and making sure that teams are connected and actually enabling that agility performance within your organization and enabling your digital transformation to take faster, right? And our visibility drivers, we provide network performance through our visibility, security monitoring, and application performance improvements across public cloud, container space, and private cloud, right? Let's go into the deep dive of Gigamon Cloud Suite, multi-cloud network traffic visibility for your virtual cloud, virtual environments, your public cloud, private cloud, or containerized environments. When I say containerized environments, it is Kubernetes containerized environments, right? So if you look at this, we call it the Gigamon Arc, deep observability pipeline. Main pillars is access to the data, brokering the data, transforming the data, investigating, providing the data to investigate security challenges, by your third-party applications, which are basically provided on the left side. Right side rather, sorry, right? So we have various technologies. So we use GVTap. GVTap is mostly used for the tapping data acquisition of traffic from the VMware. And then we have Etsy and TA, that's mostly the hardware space of it. And then we have GigaSmart, which actually does the transformation of your data captured before they actually being forwarded to third-party tools. And this is where exactly how we capture our traffic in public cloud visibility. It could be your AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. We extend visibility layer to all of your clouds. It could be one single cloud or multiple clouds. You might be using private cloud, and your private cloud visibility benefits provided. You might be running VMware or Nutanix or OpenStack, right? So we eliminate the blind spot, improve your security, optimize your cost, and streamline your operations when you're operating either in public cloud or private cloud, right? Seamlessly, consistently, we capture the traffic, we transform the traffic, we would apply intelligence to the traffic, and we forward the traffic to your third-party tools in all of these areas. So the challenge continues. Here, what we're explaining in the slide is hybrid cloud visibility without Gigamon, right? You might be running your workloads in public cloud, one, maybe multiple. You might be running your application, continue to run your application in your private cloud or your data center, right? This is where exactly the complexity of not having network visibility really becomes an issue. And this is where exactly the blind spots could happen easily. And this, because of the blind spot, the security inefficiencies could happen very easily, right? To address that, multi-cloud hybrid cloud visibility with a single pane of glass visibility that we provide on top, where you see our Fabric Manager, which is nothing but a management and control plane that can be deployable to your own cloud, to your own data center, that provides a consistent visibility across all the clouds. You might be using Amazon, Azure, Google, OpenStack cloud environments, or VMware environments, or your data center, right? So it's a consistent performance. What we deploy to your environments is a vSeries node, and then GVTAP, which is for your VMware, and we have a UCT for your container platform. It's as simple as that. It starts acquiring the traffic, it transforms the traffic, it applies the intelligence to the traffic, and then forwards the traffic to your security tools, right? It's as simple as that, but it's very critical and it's very important to detect security issues and as well as the performance issues. So importantly, a lot of customers are now moving their workloads to Kubernetes and containers. It is important how we provide east-west and north-south traffic visibility to the container space. How we do it, this is how exactly we do it. On the top left, you see we support all types of Kubernetes platforms. Either you might be using EKS, OpenShift, or even vanilla Kubernetes, or Tanzu, or it could be AKS, or it could be even GKE. We provide the visibility layer by simply deploying a pod, which is basically a simple and high-performing pod, which is a 64 MB in size, which is very small in nature, to your node, and it has the capability of hooking to your kernel space and start acquiring the traffic and doing the transformation and forwarding the traffic to your third-party tools, right? It's as simple as that. It's a simple UCT image that get deployed as in a pod to your node and to your multiple node, right? And this is a high-level diagram about how exactly the traffic is getting acquired from each of the pod that are running in multiple nodes, or it could be a cluster of nodes, right? The black layer is the traffic path. When the traffic get acquired, it actually, the line shows that. And then, of course, the blue line talks about the control path, how exactly the traffic get forwarded to vSeries. From vSeries, we forward it to your favorite tools. Then the next part is about how do we acquire the traffic from your VMware NSXT layer, right? You might be having an existing physical network or network hypervisor NSX that might be running there, and virtual networks on top of it, right? So this is where exactly we bring the visibility to your multi-tenant networks, providing consistent visibility to all the layers and traffic that's flowing between all these layers, right? So NSXT platform extendability is with an advanced security layer from Gigamon is what we're extending. On the left side, you see traditional data center. On the right side, what you see is NSXT data center, where we actually running the node, Gigamon node, for the traffic acquisition. So we automatically insert a GVTAP into each of the VMs, and that what we call it as a dynamic service insertion. And we support both legacy and NSXT versions of it. We highly recommend customer to use the latest version of NSXT versions, because that's where exactly the latest and greatest benefits customers would benefit from VMware and from us as well, right? And dynamically monitor new application that might get deployed and come up in a VMs without customers doing anything to actually apply the nodes to those workloads. We actually do it automatically, right? We support both physical and virtual based NPVs, right? And this is exactly our dynamic visibility layer look like. On the top, you would see FM, and that connects and provides visibility and analytics fabric across your tools, and as well as physical layer, and as well as hypervised layer on the top of it, right? A simple diagram showing how exactly it does. It's all magic. Cool. And centralized management using FM to your VM layer is something that we're showing here. the policy get deployed, and then the flow get created, and the traffic start getting acquired, and then we forward it. And application intelligence, this is very important use case. It is a use case driven approach. When the traffic get acquired, we apply traffic optimization, and we provide advanced filtering based on various protocols, and we do data packet inspection on various layers of tunnels and VPN, P2B, web browsing, streaming media, or it could be games or social networking. So you can do the packet inspection and apply the filtering for the traffic that you probably don't require to be forwarded to your security tools or application performance tools. The next layer is metadata as for the use case. You can apply a policy based on what type of metadata you want to forward, either based on your security posture, RAG activities, suspicious activities. M21 and 31 logging mostly applies to the public sector areas. Anomalous traffic, troubleshooting, faster troubleshooting, and very soon, and we in fact actually we already have a visibility layer, so layers 2, zero trust, right? And then once all of this been done, we can actually export the metadata using different methodologies, either JSON, Kafka, CE, APX, to your security tools, right? Of course, these are the application intelligence value drivers, data optimization for the application filtering, application attributes and KPIs can be benefited using application metadata. And of course, we provide something called data export and visualization for application connect for export and use case virtual visualization. So some of the customer use cases, two families for the cloud use cases, visibility layer and metadata layer. Visibility layer is where network visibility with the data packets and flows and metadata, complete end-to-end visibility to your hybrid cloud network layer, north-south, east-west traffic, application layer both to the VM and Kubernetes container, transport layer where the SSL decryption layer happens. Metadata provides information to anonymous traffic, enhancing security posture, suspicious rogue activities, better troubleshooting, zero trust, and M2132 logging. So use cases based on security posture, anonymous traffic, suspicious rogue activities, better troubleshooting, and zero trust, and M2132 logging, right? So I would not go into the details of it. Definitely, you can read through various use cases that we solve in each of these pillars, right? Why zero trust architecture that is needed for the visibility layer? And we are the only company that provides visibility to zero trust architecture. As you know, the federal government and DoD, SLED, and everybody is already adopting zero trust architecture, and this is an important aspect for security. Better security now and beyond, and soon, and enterprises will start adopting zero trust architecture. But zero trust architecture without visibility is incomplete. Now, this is where exactly we apply network visibility to key all the 5 layers of identity, device, network, and application workload and data. And this is an important aspect of it, right? And the foundation to zero trust is visibility, right? And that's exactly Gigamon is bringing. And we are the only company we provide that, right? And Gigamon capabilities with zero trust architecture, we help with blind spot elimination, encrypted traffic inspection, supporting microsegmentation, preventing implicit trust using our AMI, threat and detection and response using our AMI and GTI, cost optimization using our GigaSmart, and time optimization, of course, with all of the above tools, right? So this is where exactly the visibility and importance of the use cases that we solve. And why Gigamon? Of course, we minimize the business risk by providing the end-to-end network visibility, assuring your security and compliance, and accelerate the cloud initiatives. Either you moving to the cloud now, or migrating to a new cloud, or transforming your applications. We provide that visibility while you migrating and after you migrate your workloads, and providing the business agility, right? And of course, provide and deliver significant cost improvement of acquiring the traffic and forwarding the right set of traffic to your tools, right? And improve tool efficiencies that what we make. Let's say, for example, in a use case where the cryptocurrency or crypto related issues are happening, how do you get first information related to what the information, what's the issue that might be happening. Using the metadata, you can actually investigate to those crypto-related issues that might be happening and take action before these guys actually, start stealing information. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you for listening to me, and I'll be looking forward to take your questions. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Gigamon, and we will be happy to answer.
Great presentation, Mahavir. I learned a lot. I know this is a solution that could help so many companies out there. We've got a lot of great questions coming in, and I'll just go ahead and start with this one. I think this is important for you to highlight for us. They're asking, why are network visibility and deep observability just so important?
It is important today as customers deploy more workloads and bringing more workloads to their cloud and hybrid cloud while they're migrating their on-prem workloads over to the cloud. The security posture and security issues are increasing. As we all know, recent attacks in the Uber and SolarWinds are really making the life difficult, to the CISOs and as well as CIO in organization, right? With the MELT, what we call as the metrics, logs, and traces, does not provide the deep level information to the security issues that are happening at your network layer. Because of that, the information and visibility to your east-west traffic, not-so traffic through Gigamon visibility across your compute layers is an important aspect to detect and prevent proactively before the security guys actually take over and start doing the ransomware.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And then here's another good one. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it. They're asking, can this help us to get a handle on our security threats? They say my company is desperately looking to get control over, the threats facing our company.
Absolutely, great question. Network visibility and hybrid cloud visibility is definitely meant and designed to improve your security posture, improve by tremendously. East-west traffic, for example, is, as I mentioned, today in the Kubernetes container space, without the east-west traffic, right, you don't know what really, traffic flowing between your node to node, between cloud to cloud, or between cluster to cluster, right? And none of the tools provide the east-west traffic visibility and metadata visibility between the node to node and cluster to cluster, and between various zone to zone. It is must to have the east-west traffic, and by providing east-west traffic visibility, we are improving your security posture and security threats.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what so many companies need out there to get a handle on security threats and improve their security posture. And then this one, they're asking, what are some of the key value drivers and differentiators of the Gigamon Cloud Visibility solution that they need to be aware of?
Absolutely. Value drivers are, we provide visibility to some of the unknown areas or invisible areas, right? Who doesn't want it, right? That's what exactly network visibility layer is so important into that space. That's number one, right? Now that you have visibility, clear visibility, either your NetApps, your DevApps, or developers or security guys love that, right? The second one is optimizing the traffic, right? Today, everybody takes all the data, send it to your security tools, but they're not giving it to you for free, right? And also the security companies are charging you heavily. So you need a way to optimize your traffic after the traffic has been acquired so that you can actually send only the required data, right? By doing that, you will be saving a lot of your time and a lot of your cost gets saved. And the third angle is bringing that agility across the team and bringing that efficiency across team to work together with a single pane of glass visibility across your hybrid tools, right? So that your NetApps is working, set up, and your security team knows what your NetApps is doing. Your developers knows what your security tools require, right? Your security team knows what exactly ops guys are doing because they're all using a single tool. So they're actually seeing the same data, right? So by doing that, the collaboration and efficiency of these teams becomes more collaborative, and efficiency would increase and provides that real value back to the customers.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time here in our Q&A session. We've got a lot of great questions coming in from the audience. If you have a question for Gigamon, now's the time to get it in. But Mahavir, thank you so much for your great presentation, and thanks for being on the event today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about Gigamon Cloud Visibility. Look forward for more great questions. Otherwise, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I've just brought up the poll for everyone out there. The question on the screen is, what additional information would you like about the Gigamon solution? Gigamon and Mahavir, they want to get your feedback on this question, especially based on what you've learned in the presentation and putting your company's security and network visibility into perspective. What additional information would you like from the team at Gigamon? So I'll leave that question up while I announce our next set of prize winners. We have another Amazon $300 gift card. This one going to Diego Arzipi from Georgia. Congratulations, Diego Arzipi from Georgia. And our next grand prize for another Samsung S23 phone. This one's going to Janine Lowry from Iowa. Congratulations, Janine Lowry from Iowa. And I'll leave that poll question up here for just a moment longer. If you've answered the poll question already, I encourage you to check out the link right there in the handouts tab. It'll take you to gigamon.com, specifically to the GigaView Cloud Suite, and you can gain additional information on there. You can see a demo. You can learn how it provides visibility into public cloud, private cloud, and your entire network. So make sure that you check that out. The link there in the handouts tab. If you haven't answered the poll, now's the time to do it, because we're about to move on here to our next presentation. All right, thank you everyone who responded there to the poll. I'm excited now to introduce you to our next presenter here on today's MegaCast. Welcome to Don Meyer, Product Marketing Director for SASE at Palo Alto Networks. Don, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Thanks, David, and thanks everyone for joining us. As you heard, my name is Don Meyer. I'm part of the product marketing organization here at Palo Alto Networks, and it's my pleasure to walk you through today's conversation, the rise of AI-powered single vendor SASE. That's a lot of stuff in there, a lot to unpack, and we've got a few minutes to try and do that. I really want to leave and impress upon you that we hear a lot about SASE, about this interesting new architecture called SASE. Is now the right time? Yes, it is. And there's some other things that you should be thinking about with regards to SASE, this secure access services edge architecture. And we think the future of SASE is really AI powered. We're going to dive into that throughout the course. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask away. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Why are we talking about this? What's been going on? Obviously, over the last few years, we've seen some very interesting things happening. One of the most interesting things is kind of that rush to digital transformation. The way to do that has been through cloud adoption. And it's not just a single cloud vendor. We're seeing multiple organizations across every possible industry really embracing this hybrid cloud model. It makes a lot of sense. You know, there are certain attributes that work better in one cloud provider than another. There's SaaS applications that are going all over the place. There's platform as a service that is now offering the opportunity to do application processing and development in a much more efficient manner. Thus, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's a hodgepodge of different types of environments. And this is all leading us to allowing our organizations to be a lot more agile and responsive to what's going on. Cloud is foundational to that, but also at the same time, hybrid work, not just hybrid environments, but hybrid work is also here too, where employees are empowered to choose the right place that they feel most productive in, whether that's in a corporate office, whether that's in a branch office, whether that's at their home office or any point in between. This hybrid world really does give us some great opportunities, but it also introduces some rather interesting challenges that we need to overcome. And why is that? When you think about where we've come from, the world was a much simpler place, at least from a security standpoint. when we all went to the offices, when our entire security life and stack was designed around protecting a place. And the way that you would service your employees was give them access to that place. It worked really well. We built these great security stacks. And at the time, most remote work was a nice to have, not a mission critical function. And thus, the expectation that the employees had was that it's just going to kind of work and it'll just be there. But we had everything that we needed in one place. We'd funnel everything back to that one place. Even if we needed to get access to things outside of that place, we'd still funnel everything to that place. And away we went. Well, the pandemic really changed a lot of that. And again, this hybrid environment changes that whole notion where no longer are we going to a place, we're going all over the place. No longer are our applications housed in a data center. They're in all over the place, on-prem, in cloud, SaaS applications, you name it. That has some interesting challenges that we need to start thinking about too. And it's really starting to explode in already vast and already complicated attack surface. And at the same time, we're seeing threats becoming more and more sophisticated, highly evasive, designed to attack multiple vectors simultaneously, making it very difficult for us to accommodate not only this increase in mobility and data and our users going everywhere, but how do we get the visibility and, more importantly, the control that we need to be able to continue to apply the right types of security capabilities. We can't funnel things back to a single data center anymore. It doesn't work. Our users aren't going to that data center solely for all their applications. Users are going elsewhere. And if the experience is bad, they're turning off that access to those things and they're going direct to the applications anyway. We need to rethink our security. We need to rethink what it is that we have been doing around building trust. And we need to do that now. How do we start doing that? We need to think about trust from a fundamentally different perspective. We need to think about it from kind of the zero trust mantra, where we're not providing carte blanche, full privileged access. We want to reduce the privileges. We want to just provide that just in time, only implied what they need to have access at that particular time. And we need to do that for every single digital transaction. That's what we mean by adapting and adjusting our trust model. In the past, trust was once you got to that place, it was assumed you belonged there, and thus you could go do what you need to do. Today, since there is no more a place, it's all places, we need to shift away from protecting places to now protecting digital transactions or digital interactions. And how do we do that? It is shifting the trust model. Okay, sounds pretty straightforward. And conceptually, it actually is pretty straightforward. If you think about it, when we start talking about trust and what we need to do with trust, it is providing a policy and understanding within that policy certain context about the user, application, device, location, perhaps data, and then applying the proper security stack. Okay, conceptually pretty simple. Starts to get a little bit more complicated though as we are expanding our perimeters, if you will, where our users now are. They're no longer at their home office. They could be at a Starbucks. They could go to a branch office. They could go to their corporate offices. And at the same time, our attack surface is, again, starting to increase more. We're seeing more and more cloud-based services, different SaaS applications. We're even starting to see IoT devices coming into the mix. What does all that mean? It means that developing a consistent way of providing that zero trust framework, where we're providing true least privilege access, eliminating implied trust, and just really reducing that attack surface to contain that blast radius, if you will, and doing that consistently on everything, it's really, really hard to do. In the past, we've done that in that true best of breed approach, where if we had a new problem, we would go off and we'd find that solution to solve for that one problem. Again, back when we had everything in a particular place, that seemed to work well. Now we can't do that. There is no one place to go. And every new place that we start to bring our data and our users to, is a different set of requirements. We can't replicate the same stack over and over. So what do? We have a different stack for protecting SaaS applications. We have a different stack for protecting the internet. We have a different stack for protecting our premises data centers and things of that nature. These different stacks make developing and enforcing a zero trust policy impossible. We can't continue to go down this path. And in fact, the amount of time spent just in terms of managing these solutions, just updating policies, not even getting to the root cause of threats and identifying and being proactive with threats, but just managing through the policies and all the updates makes it impossible to tune these solutions to be getting the right types of outcomes that we need. We need to think about zero trust in a fundamentally different approach. And we think that that approach is with a platform. You can realistically only deliver a true zero trust outcome consistently across all of our users, all these new perimeters, if you will, in all the new areas that we're exposed through a platform. And we feel that the best platform approach around that is with a SASE type of architecture, where you can embed in there all the rich context you need around users, applications, devices, locations, data, put the right security components in place, have them completely converged into a single solution that is now delivered as a service, which means that it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere your users, everywhere your networks, everywhere your data, everywhere your applications go. But tie that to an AI, ML powered security stack as well, and other capabilities, leveraging powerful AI tools to help really get better outcomes on that. And what do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look at what that platform looks like and how we can achieve really that zero trust outcome, if you will, with zero exceptions by delivering it across an AI-powered single vendor SASE platform. Here is our architecture for SASE. As you can see, we have a very powerful cyber platform at its core that delivers all the robust capabilities that you would expect. Everything that Palo Alto Networks has been doing over the past 14, 15 years of our existence is taken and embedded into this service. So all the robust best-of-breed security capabilities, coupled with a best-of-breed SD-WAN portfolio. On top of that, we offer best-in-class digital experience management and monitoring capabilities, all tied together so that end-to-end, from wherever a user is, wherever the application is, you've got a consistent set of policies, a consistent set of capabilities, a consistent set of networking, and an optimal user experience throughout. And what we can start to do now is look at how we can leverage AI to start driving at even stronger outcomes, not only from the security side, but from the operations side. So let's dive into that for a few moments and really talk about it and take this concept into, consideration. Really, the future of SASE is going to be around AI powered. We're converging and consolidating functionality, but the bad guys are still out there and they're still leveraging these crazy tools to be more evasive, more effective. More importantly, they're also using AI-powered tools to help them develop more evasive techniques or more prominent malware. You cannot fight AI without AI. You need to have the same capabilities that the bad guys or our adversaries have available to us to be able to thwart and identify these different threats. That's what we mean. So really, if you think about it, the future of SASE is going to be AI powered. And that future is today. We're infusing AI power into our SASE architecture to help our customers really achieve the right zero trust outcomes, but stay in tune and in lockstep with where our adversaries are. And at the same time, alleviate a lot of the manual configurations and processes to help our security admins be more effective at their jobs. And finally, start aligning security to the outcomes of the business and get those two things in lockstep. All right, let's dive into it for a few more seconds here and find out exactly what we're doing on that front. And what does AI-powered SASE mean for your organization? As we talked about, there's a couple of key areas that we can bring AI-powered capabilities to really help influence the outcomes. And one of those is superior protections. And how do we do that? Comes from good data sets. How do you get good data sets? Again, go back to what we were talking about before. You have all these disparate siloed solutions that are running their own alerts, running their own data sets, running their own policies. There is no consistency in that equation. So what do? We have to go out and get more tools to help us try and parse from these disparate tools and all these disparate logs some commonality. We see that a lot with SIM tools and other things, but even that, there are limitations in terms of what they can do. There's no standardization across the industry in terms of how do we generate this information, how do we process this information, what does it all mean? So there's still gaps, and we feel that those gaps are becoming more and more unacceptable. How do you alleviate those gaps? Start with a consistent set of data. You need good, consistent data to be able to derive the right types of AI-powered outcomes. How do you do that? The platform approach is really the right way to start, where all of the tools, all of the pieces are all working together under a common policy, sharing common information that can easily be parsed out, run through some algorithms or through some AI-powered engines to be able to detect things much, much more effectively. Obviously, if you think about it, go to a security operations center and see the alerts and the alarms that are going off. In decent sized organizations like a Palo Alto Networks, we have millions of alerts going off at any given time. Millions of alerts a day means it's impossible from a human standpoint to be able to parse through all of that noise to figure out what's really impactful, what's really meaningful, what are the things that I really have to focus on. We have to augment that with other tools. We have to guess a lot of times. What AI-powered capabilities can help us do is to parse through all of that, run it through the different powered engines effectively to allow AI to show us these things are noise over here. This is the most important thing that you need to be focused on. And we can take all of that noise and shrink it down into something that's much, much more manageable and gives the right tools to our admins to keep them effectively tuned to what's really impacting the business, and more importantly, how do we drive that business forward? That's what we mean by good data. It makes AI great AI. And if you can do that on a consistent basis, you really have solved for one of the most fundamental challenges in cybersecurity. And we see that that's only applicable and only available, if you will, by standardizing on those data sets. That's what you get when you do the platform approach. So a AI-powered SASE platform, if you think about it, is really the right approach to starting to get that security alignment to the business alignment and make sure that those two things are in step. At the same time, it can actually help us to start delivering on zero-day detections and zero-day protections. And at the same time, we can really start to see telltale signs of attacks as they're happening in real time, in line, and prevent those from ever hitting that first victim. That's really powerful. And that, again, helps us to ensure our security is finally in tune to where it is that our business needs to go, and making sure that our data, our assets, our reputations are all protected. And if you think about it as well, it really does enhance some of the capabilities that we already have. We've been protecting DNS security for quite some time. We've also been doing URL filtering for quite some time, the industry as well as Palo Alto Networks. And in fact, Palo Alto Networks has some of the most robust capabilities around DNS, URL, advanced threat prevention with sandboxing and things of that nature. We're leveraging these powerful AI tools to help us do even more. Looking into DNS, for example, and understanding where DNS is vulnerable and what telltale signs of DNS attacks look like. And we're auto-generating these signatures, if you will, that teach our algorithms and teach our AI-powered engines what to look for and how to look for it. Same thing with URL and URL filtering attacks. You know, there are more new websites popping up every day. Some are legitimate, many are not. How do you know which ones are not? Usually you have to wait until something bad happens and someone sends a signature out and everyone gets that signature. But something bad has already happened. However, what we can start to do is to look for embedded things into those URLs, or look for different ways or different kit signatures that detect how these different sites were made that could have malware embedded in them, or could be used for phishing, or could be used for drive-bys. There are definitely a number of signatures and a number of kits that are out there that provide the bad guys these automated tools that allow them to be able to just crank these things out quickly. Well, if you understand what those kits are and you can identify the signatures of those kits within the pages themselves, you can say, aha, this one is a bad site. I'm going to block that one completely at the same time that the user is requesting access to that site. That's the power that AI provides to us. And at the same time, when you use those things in concert and you start looking at additional ways of the bad guys manipulating different variants or creating new variants of existing threats, when you start looking at and understanding the tools that they use to be able to do that, all of a sudden now you've cracked the code in terms of these new malware variants that are coming up, and you're able to spot them in line with that traffic and prevent them from ever again hitting that first victim. As a result of doing that, we are able to cover more DNS security alerts and more DNS security threats than anyone in the industry today. We're able to detect more URLs, bad malicious URLs, faster than anyone in the industry. And it's allowing us to provide 6 times better threat prevention against known malware or more known malware than anyone else in the industry. That is the power of AI. And that's really what you can start to expect from a consolidated platform approach that's really leveraging this. But we're not stopping there. I mean, obviously, phishing is still a very prominent way that the bad guys are using to be able to get credentials and get access to different systems. And you think about it. We talked about zero trust and eliminating kind of that blast radius and eliminating that implied trust and just reducing that attack surface as much as we can. But also think about this. 100% of attacks occur on allowed connections. You can't get into some place unless you're allowed in, right? Same thing. You can't walk into a building unless the door is open or you can get access to that building. The bad guys know this, which is why the phishing attacks have spiked over, the last several years, because most of us are working from home. We're outside the corporate offices. We're, inundated with a lot of things that are going on. We could be easily distracted. And phishing is a very lucrative way of gathering credentials and finding that open door, getting access to those things, where then I can start to look for other access to other things. We need to get a handle on this, and AI can really help us do that. We're introducing and have brought to market a couple of new ways that we're looking at leveraging our tools to defend against some of the more common phishing attacks that we've seen out in the industry. One in particular is around SaaS phishing, where a user goes to a SaaS application and it is even hosted on a legitimate site, but there is a malware embedded into that site that is siphoning off the different credentials. How do we detect that? We're looking at HTTP code. We're looking at different source code from the different websites themselves. And we're identifying the proper signatures for what is legitimate versus what we think, and we identify as something that is questionable. We're doing that in real time. So if there is a question or if something doesn't look right for us, we can prevent access to that until we can do some further investigation. Likewise with different phishing methods that are embedded into URLs. We can take a look at source code. We can take a look at the different kits that are leveraged, as we've talked about before, to build these different sites, to see, this is designed to lure someone to giving up their credentials and allowing the bad guys to be able to siphon the credentials and get an input or an inroad into their data sets or to these different applications. So we train our AI algorithms and our AI-powered engines to look for these kits, to look for these telltale signs that this is a illegitimate use of these forms or these pages. And same thing with man-in-the-middle attacks as well, where we're leveraging these powerful tools to show what does a man-in-the-middle attack typically look like? What are the functions that are being called upon within this particular transaction? Is there a pattern there? Can we recognize that pattern? And if we can, stop it right then and there, because we know that this is a malicious intent to try and siphon off someone's data. AI-powered algorithms help us do that and do that exceedingly effectively so that we can stop these things in real time without impacting performance and tell the users, hey, you just went to a phishing site. Your credentials were trying to be hacked and we prevented you from going there. That's why you didn't get access to that particular site. We can do that in real time without having to stop configuring something or bringing a new service to our environment, without having to parse through a ton of logs, without having to sit there and sift through disparate different solutions. We have all of that contained in a single point of view, all because we are leveraging this rich data set from this platform approach. We feel that that is, again, the right way to do that. And when you combine that with our SD-WAN product, you really have the industry's most complete SASE, where it is truly a 1 + 1 = 3 mode. SD-WAN is truly helping to transform the branch, and the branch is coming back. It's coming back in droves. But the traditional way of doing things, rolling trucks, having dedicated IT staff there, configuring things differently than what you did, it doesn't work. We need something that's going to be a little bit more automated, single-click integrations into the existing infrastructure that is derived around, again, automation for different configuration things that provides that kind of AI operations standpoint, so that we can be more effective in terms of how we're operating and how we're delivering the right services to the right branch offices. And it should be integrated into your SASE architecture. It should not be a standalone blood-sucking alien somewhere off to the side. It should be part of that overall consistent approach where you have that same visibility, same control, same policy governing all of it. You can't do that with hodgepodge worth of solutions or different piece parts trying to put it all together. You don't get the rich data sets. You will not get the same types of outcomes. We feel that with our solution, our security solution called Prisma Access, plus our SD-WAN portfolio called Prisma SD-WAN, that Prisma SASE is the right SASE architecture to help organizations really achieve the right types of outcomes. And it is an AI-powered solution. It gives organizations the best security, the most up-to-date AI-powered SD-WAN that allows, again, better operations, more effective and efficient security and security operations. All right, with that, I think we are just about at time, so I want to be able to open it up for some questions, and let's see if there are any questions out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Great presentation, Dawn. I learned a lot. I know this could help so many companies out there. You've given us a lot to think about. We do have questions coming in for you from the audience. Let's see, I'll just start with this first one. They say, we hear a lot about zero trust and ZTNA. We hear the terms used interchangeably. What are really the differences between the two?
Really good question. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but it bears some clarification. Zero trust is really a construct. It is it's an outcome, if you will, in terms of doing security right. It is eliminating that implied trust. It's really providing least privilege access, and it's doing the security on those digital transactions. It is a construct. It's kind of an outcome. ZTNA is taking those outcomes and applying that for remote access, if you will. So ZTNA is really a product that gives you the right zero trust outcomes as it applies to remote access. And why is that important? Because, again, when the pandemic hit and everyone suddenly became a remote employee, that whole notion and concept around trust had to change. At the same time, backhauling traffic all the way to the data centers just was not a way to be able to accommodate the right types of productivity demands that our users had to do things differently. ZTNA allows us to do things differently by providing least privilege access, but not all ZTNA solutions are done right. We think that the best approaches towards ZTNA don't just apply to how remote users get access to private applications. It should be applied to how they get access to any application. So ZTNA, I should say, it is a product really designed around how you get remote users back to their applications. But zero trust is that overarching security construct that we're all striving to achieve that allows us to get the right types of results.
Got it. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sure that's confusing for a number of folks. And then another question here, if companies are looking for ZTNA solutions, what should they be looking for?
Yeah, that's a really good point. As I mentioned before, it starts with those right types of outcomes. Most of the time when people or organizations are talking about ZTNA, they're really talking about private app access. That's getting a remote user access to data center applications. Okay, fine. There are some interesting implications around that. Usually, if you're going back to your data center, you're going through your corporate security stack and you can scrub all that stuff and you have a different experience. If you're going to the internet or you're going to a SaaS application, you're going through a different security stack and you're getting different experiences and different outcomes. Again, we talked about making sure that those outcomes are consistent. The same ZTNA outcomes that you expect on the private side should be applicable for SaaS applications or internet or wherever your applications are. So when looking for ZTNA types of products, really look to see how those outcomes are derived and how applicable they are across every different application, not just the private applications that you're allowing access to. And it should be embedded into this global, universal kind of cloud-delivered SASE architecture so that you are using the proper zero trust outcomes in a way that is designed for how your users work, where your applications are. It's designed to take a look at the overall productivity and experience side of things to ensure that users are getting optimal performance and optimal experiences. There's a couple of things in there. At the same time, maybe think about how to leverage things like AI. If you can get a dedicated platform approach that has all these different pieces integrated, then you can start to tap into things like AI to get really the right types of outcomes and better security capabilities. Those are the things that I would recommend you start looking for.
Great advice. Yeah, that sounds very appealing. And I know we're running out of time here in our live Q&A session, but one final question I wanted to ask you before we go. You mentioned SASE. How does ZTNA tie into SASE?
Good question. ZTNA is a core component of SASE. SASE, if you think about it, describes access to the internet, access to SaaS applications, access to your private applications. SASE is really the architecture that says, okay, your users and now all your data are somewhere outside of the corporate office. You need to find a way to stitch all that stuff together. ZTNA, as I said before, it is a component of stitching remote users to private applications. But think about SASE as that kind of broader architecture that allows us to deliver a consistent set of zero trust outcomes. So if you're looking at ZTNA, look for a SASE vendor that delivers that consistency across all the different applications and all the different ways users are accessing applications, not just private apps. And at the same time, look at vendors who are interested in or developing AI approaches to ensure that whatever the security stack is, it's tuned to the most sophisticated threats, and it's giving the operations teams the necessary tools to be as effective as they possibly can be.
Excellent. All right. Well, Don, I'm afraid we're running out of time, but I want to give a big thank you to you for your excellent presentation. We learned a lot about zero trust, ZTNA, SASE, and the value that Palo Alto Networks brings, of course, to the solution and to help companies be more secure. Thanks for the great presentation, and thanks for being on.
My pleasure. And if you guys want some more information, please come visit us at paloaltonetworks.com.
Excellent.
I've just brought up our poll question related to Palo Alto Networks. The question on the screen is, what additional information would you like about the Palo Alto Networks solution? I will leave this poll question up for a little while and let everyone respond. Venkat said, excellent presentation. Awesome. Thank you, Venkat, for your feedback. Thank you to everyone else out there in the audience for all the great questions. We didn't have time to get to all of these, but we'll be doing our best. We'll be routing these over to the Palo Alto Networks team, and hopefully they will get you all the answers that you need. Of course, in the meantime, I encourage you to respond to the poll right there on your screen. This is the best way for you to give feedback to the Palo Alto Networks team, and specifically back to Dawn. They do want to hear what you thought about the presentation and what you'd like to do as your next step. So I encourage you to check that out. Of course, once you answer the poll, check out the Palo Alto Networks handout there in your audience console. That link will take you to the Palo Alto Networks Gartner Magic Quadrant for SSE. You can download that and check it out. You can see how they compare to the other solutions in the SSE and SD-WAN market. So make sure that you check that out. And of course, you can always visit paloaltonetworks.com for more information. All right, if you haven't answered the poll, now is the time to do it. Again, I'll leave it up for just a little while longer while I announce our next set of prize winners. We've got another Amazon $300 gift card, this one going to Dylan Pritchard from Kentucky. Congratulations. And our final grand prize for another Samsung S23 phone, this is going to Christopher Bogart from Pennsylvania. Congratulations to all the prize winners. Thank you to Glenn, who said great presentation as well. Appreciate that. I love to hear all the feedback from the audience. And of course, don't forget about the poll question, because we're about to move on and wrap up today's MegaCast. All right, if you're out there in the audience and you would like to present on an upcoming MegaCast, your enterprise technology solution, we would love to connect with you. Just reach out to connect@actualtechmedia.com. And don't forget about other upcoming events. We've got an expert series coming up this Friday. Hey, that's tomorrow. Looking forward to it. The topic is ransomware case studies and lessons learned. We will have a ransomware expert on there presenting, and you'll also just get a brief mention about solutions from Rubrik and Lacework as well. But the bulk of the presentation on the expert series tomorrow is going to be a great presentation by ransomware author and expert, Mr. Alan Liska. So make sure that you check out his presentation tomorrow. It's going to be about 45 minutes, tons of content in there on how to protect yourself from ransomware, case studies of companies who have failed and case studies of companies who have succeeded, and the lessons that were learned. Going to be a great event. You can visit all of our events at events.actualtechmedia.com. All right, as soon as I end the event here, you'll be automatically redirected to our Refer a Friend landing page. That's where you can refer your IT friends and coworkers to the Actual Tech Media series of events, and you'll be entered into an additional gift card drawing. So, of course, we appreciate your participation in that, and best of luck in the drawing. I hope that everyone learned a lot on the MegaCast today, and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.